You are on Tips and Streams with your host, Coca.
What's good, everyone? Welcome back to Tips and Streams. I'm Koken, and I hope you're doing well and feeling locked in wherever you're listening from. All right, let's get to the daily picks. I've got 4 NBA matchups on the card today, so buckle up. We're diving straight into the action. The first prediction for today's NBA games is for the game between the Denver Nuggets and the New Orleans Pelicans. When I break down this matchup between the Pelicans and the Nuggets, I don't start with the standings or the headlines. I start with context, rhythm, and game flow. And this is one of those games where the number tells a very different story than the narrative around it. Yes, Denver keeps finding ways to win. I respect that. Even with key pieces rotating in and out, they've leaned into a next-man-up identity and survived on grit, structure, and timely shot-making. I watched that Bucks game closely, and what stood out to me wasn't just the result. It was how thin the margin was. That win came from discipline and defensive execution, not offensive dominance. Now flip the lens to New Orleans. The record is ugly, no way around it. They've been bleeding games, struggling to close, and confidence clearly isn't where it needs to be. But when I dig into recent performances, I see something important: competitiveness before collapse. Against Orlando, they controlled large stretches of the game, moved the ball well, and played with real pace for 3 quarters before everything unraveled late. That fourth quarter breakdown is the key talking point here, and also the reason I'm comfortable backing them in this spot. Denver is walking into this game banged up, thin, and still uncertain at the guard position. On the road, without a fully stable rotation, asking them to separate by margin is a dangerous proposition. They can win games like this, absolutely, but winning and covering are 2 very different conversations. From my perspective, this shapes up as a grind. Slower tempo, fewer clean looks, and long stretches where execution matters more than talent. That kind of game favors the underdog staying within striking distance, especially at home. Especially when the favorite lacks full offensive continuity. I don't need New Orleans to be perfect. I don't even need them to win. I need effort, pace control, and enough scoring balance to avoid the late-game free fall we've seen recently. And given the matchup dynamics, I see them checking those boxes. So when it comes to my card, I'm trusting the number more than the name on the jersey. My prediction is simple and calculated. I'm taking the Pelicans to cover the 4-point spread against the Nuggets. This feels like a possession-by-possession game, and in that kind of environment, I'll gladly take the points. Today's second prediction is for the game between the San Antonio Spurs and Oklahoma City Thunder. I've been around this league long enough to know that history matters, but context matters more. Yes, the Spurs have beaten Oklahoma City 3 times already this season. Yes, 2 of those wins came by margin. And yes, that kind of matchup dominance usually forces me to pause. But this spot, this moment, this is different. When I look at Oklahoma City right now, I see a team that was punched in the mouth, felt the heat, and finally responded. The recent stretch wasn't pretty, and I won't pretend it was. Tight wins, overtime survival, and defensive cracks that didn't exist earlier in the season. But what matters to me is how they've stabilized, and how they've done it at home. This Thunder team feeds off the energy at the Paycom Center. They defend with intent, they close quarters with discipline, and when their leader is on the floor, the pace and control shift immediately. I don't care who beat them in December or on Christmas. This is January basketball, and this is where elite teams reassert themselves. San Antonio deserves respect, especially on the defensive end. They've turned games into grind fests, dragging opponents into uncomfortable half-court possessions and forcing tough decisions late in the clock. Victor Wembanyama changes everything defensively, even when he's not filling up the box score. His presence alone bends spacing and timing. But what concerns me with the Spurs right now is the offense. The rhythm is off. The scoring punch hasn't been there lately, and when games tighten, they've struggled to generate clean looks consistently. I also can't ignore the situational angle. Oklahoma City knows exactly what's at stake. Losing 4 straight to the same opponent sends the wrong message to the rest of the league. Championship-level teams respond to moments like this with focus, intensity, and urgency. I expect Oklahoma City to set the tone early, defend with edge, and slowly stretch this game by winning the small battles. Loose balls, defensive rebounds, and transition stops. I don't see this as a blowout track meet. I see control. I see adjustments. I see Oklahoma City forcing San Antonio to score in uncomfortable ways, possession after possession. Over 48 minutes, that pressure adds up. So when it comes down to my final call, I'm trusting experience, home dominance, and motivation. My money is on the Thunder to cover the 6-point spread against the Spurs in Oklahoma City. I believe they send a clear message tonight, not just to San Antonio, but to the entire league. The third prediction for today is for the game between the Atlanta Hawks and the Los Angeles Lakers. When I break down this matchup, the first thing that jumps off the page for me is timing and rhythm, not star power. This game is all about who's arriving sharp and who's arriving tired. And for me, Atlanta checks every box in that department. I'm watching an Atlanta Hawks team that has quietly found its balance. They're coming into Los Angeles rested, confident, and playing connected basketball. What I like most is how composed they've looked over this winning stretch. The ball has been moving, the spacing has been clean, and the effort on both ends has been consistent. This doesn't look like a team searching for answers. It looks like a group that understands exactly who they are right now. I've said it before, and I'll say it again here. This Hawks roster has shown that it can function smoothly without leaning on one dominant voice. The offense feels freer, decisions are quicker, and roles are clearly defined. I see players stepping into responsibility instead of waiting for someone else to take control. That's a big deal on the road. Defensively, Atlanta has been doing enough to stay organized and disciplined, especially when the pace slows down. They're not trying to do too much, just staying solid, contesting shots, and forcing teams to work deeper into the clock. Against the Lakers team that has struggled to maintain offensive flow lately, that matters. On the other side, I see a Los Angeles Lakers squad that is clearly fighting fatigue and inconsistency. They've been stuck in that cycle where one good stretch is immediately followed by a step backward. The back-to-back spot raises red flags for me, especially with uncertainty surrounding rotations and minutes. That kind of instability is tough to manage against a rested opponent that's already playing with confidence. Yes, the Lakers are at home. Yes, they can score in bunches when things click. But what concerns me is how often they've had trouble sustaining defensive focus, especially when legs get heavy. I don't love this spot for them, and I don't think it's where they suddenly flip the switch. I also can't ignore the rest advantage. Atlanta has consistently taken care of business when they've had extra time to prepare, and I trust their approach in these situations. This feels like one of those games where execution and energy decide everything, not name recognition. So when I put it all together, the momentum, the rest edge, the cleaner chemistry, and the current form, I know exactly where I'm going. My prediction is this. I'm riding with the Atlanta Hawks to win this game outright and cover the 2-point spread in Los Angeles. This feels like a sharp road spot, and I'm comfortable backing Atlanta to handle business. Today's last prediction is for the game between the Portland Trail Blazers and Golden State Warriors. When I look at this matchup between Portland and Golden State in San Francisco, the first thing I tell myself is this. Context matters more than headlines. And this game has layers. Golden State comes into this one looking to respond after a rough loss, and I get why people expect to bounce back. Steph did his thing. Jimmy Butler showed up, but once again the supporting cast went quiet. That has been a recurring theme. When the role guys don't hit shots or control tempo, this team becomes very top-heavy. And that's when cracks start to show. Now flip it to Portland. Yes, the injury list is long. Yes, key names are missing. But I've been watching this group closely, and what I see is a team that competes possession by possession. Even when things break against them, they don't fold. They play with pace, they attack early in the shot clock, and they keep forcing defenses to react instead of settling. What really stands out to me is how comfortable Portland has been in this matchup. They've already seen Golden State multiple times this season, and that familiarity matters. When an underdog knows where the shots are coming from, knows the rotations, and knows how to survive momentum swings, covering a big number becomes very realistic. Golden State's offense is heavily driven by the 3-ball. When it's falling, they can stretch a lead quickly. When it's not, the game slows down, possessions get longer, and that's exactly the kind of environment where a double-digit spread becomes dangerous. Add in the fact that Golden State has struggled to protect the ball at times, and that opens the door for extra possessions on the other side. From Portland's perspective, I don't need them to win this game outright. I just need effort, discipline, and shot selection. If they stay connected defensively, limit live ball turnovers, and keep attacking the paint instead of settling, this turns into a grind rather than a runaway. I also trust Portland's mentality as an underdog. This is a team that has shown it can hang around, absorb pressure, and make games uncomfortable late. And when you're catching double digits, discomfort favors the team getting the points. So when I put everything together, recent form, matchup familiarity, Golden State's reliance on perimeter shooting, and Portland's ability to stay competitive, my angle becomes very clear. My prediction is the Portland Trail Blazers to cover the 11-point spread against the Golden State Warriors in San Francisco. That's the side I'm riding with, and that's where my confidence sits for this one.